Hello? Is this thing on? Hi, friends. Oh, look at that. We got some live. There's everybody coming through the door. Can everybody hear me, by the way? Say something in the comments if you can hear me because I've never done it this way before. We've always had like Vito or Stieg like running point on this thing, but they're both at work. And we thought that we needed someone to come on and talk about the last several days of USF Athletics. Hey, Pix. Okay, cool. We're here. All right, everybody can hear me. Hi, friends. Colin Sherwin. Welcome to the Bay Area Examiner live stream podcast, or whatever the hell we're calling this thing. If you've got questions, drop them in the comments. I'm just going to rant and rave here as much as I possibly can. Yes, what a time to be alive. Oh, did I do AL live? Oh, come on, man. Did I really? I can't spell it correctly. That's terrible job by me. Just terrible that I capitalized the A and the L. But we could fix that in post. So this has been certainly an interesting process. We started to get a pretty good idea that the pool of candidates was being severely narrowed about the middle of last week. And then we certainly were hopeful that our candidate that I think most of us at the Bay Area Examiner thought was the perfect hire was still in the mix. And we talked to a lot of people. This was particularly challenging for me personally. I thought we were going to be able to cover this search from pillar to post basically in every way possible. And what I realized is when I was getting into it is that it was just really challenging because I have never been so personally conflicted in a story. Yes, it is actually a UA windbreaker, and it's one of the most comfortable things I own. I don't know if you guys can see these comments. I think I have to like show the comment. Is that yes, it is a UA polo. I have this thing is, by the way, one of the most comfortable things I have. So I wear it all the time. But I've never been so personally conflicted in a story because the vice chair of the board of trustees, who was chairing today's board of trustees meeting, dear friend, somebody I've known for 25 years. I was his campaign manager when he was student body president at USF. The search firm that was involved in this hire is run by somebody who I care about very deeply, in Marcy Lanou, who was a former USF Athletics staffer and has gone on to the search firm world after working at places like Southern Miss and U San Diego and places like that. And now she's one of the best. She got named 2 years in a row one of the top 100 people in all of basketball, not just college basketball, but like all of basketball. And she was the one running the search firm side of it for her company that was hired by USF. I've known Rob since I was an employee of the alma mater. Rob, I believe, if I'm not gonna, may not get this right. I think this is right though. Rob was the one handing us bracelets when we were in Greenbergopolis a million years ago to get into the games early, when we were all camped out for basically the entire basketball season in like 2001, 2002 with Altron Jackson and BB Walden and Reggie Cohn. That long ago. I've known Rob at least that long, if not longer. And so, yeah, I mean, I had a lot of confidence in the story, and I wasn't willing to do the thing where you like stand on, and start knocking on people and beating them down. And so I just realized very early on that this was going to be tough, but we had a pretty good idea that this was coming. And yeah, it's been a really exciting time. I think Rob's the perfect hire. I wrote about this. I had that prepped a few days ago. And I did not tell Rob that I had written that either. I just wanted him to read that cold because if I reference a lot of things that are very Tampa, but they are generalist Tampa. And I know because they are generalist Tampa, I've lived here 30 years, almost 30 years. Yeah. And, but Rob's a lifer. And as much as I love this town, I'll never be a native, and that's okay. Getting a native, getting someone who's been here, who's seen everything. It's a weird place, man. Tampa, USF, especially in the every place has their quirks and niches and whatever. I think USF Athletics challenges in that area as much as anyone does. And this is a tough town to get to know. It's a tough town to get to know donors. It's a tough town to ingratiate yourself in. And so hiring somebody who's pre-ingratiated, I think, is just the biggest step forward that we could possibly make. And the fact that Rob has been, he was traveling with the basketball team when he was still in high school. He was, trusted by coaches before he was ever a graduate. I think he was working I was working full-time before I graduated. Rob's younger than I am. I took me a little longer to graduate than him too. But Rob is someone that has been a part of this university for so long and has cared so deeply about it. And I think it's amazing that we all get to see the enthusiasm of someone who has loved this place as much as all of us do get the job. And we'll see what he does with it. All right, who's got questions? Fire them in here. I'm done ranting. Y'all read what I wrote already, I hope. Subscribe to the Bay Area Examiner. We did everything that we could on the story, but we also didn't want to become the story and start stepping on it and start stepping on people and relationships. So we didn't do that. But I don't know where to go from here. Football's 18. I'm very excited to go to Miami this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Spreads, still 16.5, I think. I like USF to cover and Miami probably to win, but USF to cover the 16.5 because if it's anywhere near close in the fourth quarter, Mario Cristobal's going to screw it up somehow. What do we got? Picks. Lauren Pickle. Hi, Lauren. He's going to care about USF more than anyone, and I love that. We need loyals. Man, I've said this forever. When we were at the height of our sucking, we hired a lot of people who looked at the university as a resume line, that were looking to use USF as a stepstone to get to the next job. And that's okay for some people. You need people that have some ambition, because people with ambition tend to work hard and are also generally qualified at what they do. So you do need some folks that that may not be lifers, but you need some lifers too. And that's why I thought MK was a great hire, because he was someone who cared about this place deeply, but had also brought so much experience from the outside in running Super Bowls and working for the ACC. I thought that was a tremendous hire to fix what at that point, quite frankly, was a broken program. Pillar to post, absolutely broken. Rob's going to inherit a much nicer building. I'll say what I said here in our little Slack channel about this, which was, let me find it. Rob's inheriting a very nice starter home. Michael Kelly had a house made out of rotted rain soaked Walmart pallets when he got here. And I think that's probably about as accurate as I can make it. This thing was a full-on nightmare. And MK has, stabilized the patient, as it were. And I think Rob's the guy to get us to the next level. And the thing that Rob does better than anything is he goes big. And we need a little bit of swag, a little bit of FU, and willingness to believe in ourselves as an institution, which is something I don't think USF has done very well over a long period of time. And I think Rob's the guy to do that. So expect big, splashy things to happen that will engage the community. And obviously the other piece is that Rob knows every big checkbook in this town. And we're going to need money. And I don't know of anybody who could possibly be a better fundraiser for the institution. So, yeah, that is where we are. Frank says Big 12 needs to add USF. Why not the ACC? I'm fine with either. But when the dial gets spun here around 2030, 2031, we just need to be in position. So these things tend to take care of themselves, especially if you have a competent administration, which we did not have. We did have in 2003 when Leroy handled everything basically perfectly at that famous Newark airport meeting where he got us into the Big East. I think we now have another person that, when it's time to have that meeting, is ready for it. And not to say that MK wasn't, because I think he was. We were, certainly the ties that he has to everybody in the ACC would be huge. But whether it's ACC, Big 12, Rob Higgins has every commissioner, athletic director, all of these folks, committee member on speed dial. And he knows these folks. He's had relationships with them. He's worked with them for years and decades. And so if USF does what they're supposed to do, they'll be in position. And when it's ready to make that move, they'll be ready. Pickle says, do you think Rob's experience at TBSC will give USF an advantage for tournaments, realignment, or anything else? I think for realignment, for sure, because those relationships come built in, and he'll be able to sell what USF is able to offer as well as anyone, because he's lived it and he's partnered with USF on how many, probably hundreds, literally hundreds of events over the last 20 years. So I think that'll definitely be a thing. For tournaments, conference tournaments, interesting. That's an interesting process. I'm not really sure there. And then, he leaves behind a tremendous staff in people like Claire Lessinger, Jason Hoggy, at the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. I don't see TBSC, I've always, I'm friends with a lot of those folks over there. And I've always said that place is as much a cult as it is a job. I don't know of anybody in the city who works harder than the folks at TBSC when it comes to not just putting on events, but securing events for our city. And he's got a great staff over there that he's going to leave behind. So I think he has taught his successors very well. And I would assume, I don't know anything, but I would assume they're going to hire from the internally here, that they're going to hire somebody that's already a member of that staff to keep this thing rolling, so that we're going to keep getting Super Bowls and Final Fours and WrestleManias and everything else in town. And I think that is huge. There's 175 of you in here, and I'm not getting enough questions. All right. So Jay, hey, buddy. Hi, Jay. How are you? Have me on the podcast. You want to talk like specific things here. This is a great day for USF. And, I might have made a cicada joke in my text messages this morning, which is, 18 years ago, USF was really good and things kind of went bad. And now 18 years later, USF seems like everything's going really good again. And today is maybe the best of those days. And I am just beyond excited. Now the trick is going to be, and here's why I'm super excited. The people that were there in 2007 are now in charge. I was standing on the field with Mike Griffin when we beat West Virginia. I think he was with me at the game when we beat them up there in 2006. I know that these folks that are here saw the rise, and then not only saw the fall, but saw why we fell. And why we fell was a lack of investment in the university. The top of USF administratively didn't invest enough, didn't do enough, took every other priority, and just said, oh, we're in the Big East. We got this. Well, we don't need to invest. We don't need to build new facilities. We don't need to invest more money. We don't know how to. We can just recruit all these 4- and 5-star kids, in the 6-county area, and we'll be good at football. We don't need to do anything else. And our failure, we succeeded on one level, which is academic. We became an AAU institution, and full credit to that board of trustees, to Judy Genshaft, for making that happen. But we weren't able to walk and chew gum because we couldn't also get the public forward facing right. And the most public forward facing for any school in FBS football is always going to be your football program. And we just failed on that so massively. And the people that are in charge now were there. They saw it. They saw the mistakes. And now when we're getting another chance, they're not, as I wrote in something else, with apologies to Manuel or Miranda, they're not going to throw away their shot this time. And with the next cycle of realignment coming in the next 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 years, USF's going to be in position. And I would be, at this point, with this people, with this level of investment, with these people who care, I would be surprised if USF is not on the other side of that P4 wall. Whereas before I would have said, I don't see any scenario where we could find a path to be a P4 school. Now I've flipped that with these folks and this level of investment that I think, 2-3 years later, I'm saying I'll be stunned if we aren't on the other side of that P4 wall in 2030, 2031. Which areas stand out to you as being the biggest difference between Higgins and MK? Rob's going to probably be a little more public facing. He's a little more gregarious. I think you'll see him doing more press conferences, making more jokes, being out there a little more publicly. He's got a little PT Barnum in him, which for the current job is what you need. And I think we need that. We need to, famously, this is a guy who, like, before virtual headsets were a thing, was bringing virtual reality headsets to, like, NFL owners to try and secure a Super Bowl and, like, doing the presentations completely that way. I know he, got, like, body slammed by Titus O'Neil at the sneaker soiree before. Things like that. Like, this is a guy who's not afraid to just put himself out there and do something a little different, a little splashy. And I think that's kind of what USF needs right now. The infrastructure's there. It wasn't there before. Now it is. Now we got to sell it. Rob can sell. And the hundreds and hundreds of events that he secured for the city are how I know he can sell. So that I think is the biggest area. If you're going to do like a Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside thing, you would definitely have like MK as the inside guy, who did a fantastic job of overhauling our structure, our organization, and getting us in this position where Rob can get out there and sell it. The past few weeks have been the greatest feeling as a USF fan. I can't believe the third of Franks. Preach, my friend. Going through this football team before the season, I thought they'd be good. I did not know they would be life-changing. I thought this defense could be much improved because they spent a lot on the front seven. I did not know those guys were going to hit that hard. I did not know they were going to be that physical, and I did not know this team was going to be overall this good. Season ended tomorrow. USF's the group of 5 member in the playoff. And now you got 10 games. If no matter what happens against Miami on Saturday, even if that's a loss, that's okay. They're still going to be the front runner for the G5 spot. They get South Carolina State, and then they get a bye, and then they get Charlotte. And by the way, if you haven't seen Charlotte this year, they suck. That's one of the 5 worst teams in all FBS. So basically, if they can get through Miami with a good performance, you're going to get 3 weeks where you're still going to be at the top of the polls, the talk of college football. And you'll be in a very, very good position. I don't want to throw rat poison on them, but this is, no matter what happens in Miami, USF's going to have a really fun 4 weeks of enjoying the ride coming up. And I think that's huge. Zane says, I've said a lot of people who are in the know have wanted Rob Higgins here for a long, long time. We're in a time where revenue is more important than ever. How do you see Higgins selling all these big businesses in Tampa, donating scholarships to USF Athletics and donating to NIL? This guy gets checks written, man. Whether that's from, Jeff Vinnick, the Rays folks, or the Bucks, or whomever, he gets checks written. Because these events don't come here without checks getting written. And so Rob knows every big wallet in town. And as I've said, previously, this is a weird town to fundraise in. It's a weird town to build coalitions in. It's a weird town for that kind of thing. But the old money in Tampa, Rob knows all those guys and girls. And he'll be the one who'd be able to reach out to them and help make them a part of what USF is. And that's the thing that, I live down here in Channel. I'm in Channel Side in downtown, but I lived in South Tampa forever. And connecting the South Tampa money to USF has always been the biggest challenge. And Rob lives up in New Tampa, but he knows South Tampa. He went to Jesuit, that, and I think those Jesuit connections, the Jesuit mafia. I know a lot of guys who graduate. I did not, but I didn't get here till I was in college. But those Jesuit guys, they stick together, and having somebody that's a part of that group, I think, is huge for USF. Do you think we will beat Miami as well? I think there's a chance. I think if it's like a close game in the fourth quarter, we can count on Mario Cristobal to Napier it up a little bit. The good news is that we're facing a monster schedule against terrible game managing coaches. I think Miami's a little more talented than USF, or Miami's a little more talented than Florida. I also think they're more talented than USF. Doesn't mean they're mistake proof. And we've all seen Carson Beck. He can make plays, but he also makes mistakes. And if we can get like 2 mistakes out of Carson Beck, control the clock as we did in Gainesville, make something. I certainly look. It is not out of the realm of possibility. This is not it's over. and the score will not be what it was last year against Miami. That I can promise you. Other questions here. Masala, USF is in the top 45, College Live 5. Okay, settle down. That's very kind. But yeah, this is just it's a joy, man. Enjoy it. For those of us that have suffered, and let me tell you, the suffering, I step back. I step back from Twitter for a lot of reasons, not necessarily related to USF. But I step back from a lot of this USF stuff because so much negative and so much bad was so caustic for so long. I could feel it rubbing off in the way that I was covering and perceiving the program. And I'm not even going to blame myself for it. They 100% deserved it. You know what I mean? We hired MK, things got a little bit better, and I could see progress. But I was there full, 10 toes down on all of the worst of the worst. And I could feel it rubbing off in the way I was covering the program. And that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to USF to have somebody that is just that was so inherently negative, but inherently negative with a reason, because I can point to, here's all the problems that you're not addressing. Here's where you're screwing this up. And I was saying it before it happened. And so I felt really super negative about the program. That wasn't fair to those who are trying to rebuild it. So it made sense for me to step back. And Nate and those guys have done a fantastic job taking it over. I've helped out where I can, but you really don't need me. They got this thing covered. And by the way, breaking the story, I did a pre-write for Rob, but Nate's the one who beat the bushes on this one too. He was getting after it, I was getting after it, but Nate was really getting after it. He did a fantastic job. And we need more independent journalism like that. So let me tell you, I'm going to Miami this weekend. I'm paying my own way. They paid for me to go to Media Day. And they paid for me to go to Columbus last year with the women's basketball team. I'm not taking a dime out of this thing, though. I am only getting paid in travel for some USF events every once in a while. And I want to support these guys. If USF's going to be good, somebody needs to scream it from the mountaintops. And then look, I think this leadership team is fantastic. I'm beyond excited, but they might screw up at some point. And somebody needs to be there to hold them accountable. And the reason we started this damn thing was nobody was telling the great stories about, a volleyball team or a softball team and things like that. Those stories weren't really getting reported in the old Trip Times era. And then we realized real quick that we're the only ones saying, hey, the building's on fire. It's really freaking bad there. There are people flipping off their bosses as soon as they walk out of a room. And their bosses are already on LinkedIn 5 hours a day. We should probably say something about that. And then it became that. And now we want to do both. We want to, push the best of the best and the positive things that are happening. But also if something goes wrong, we need independent journalism. And so support these guys. I think they've done a hell of a job. As far as USF weeks go, where does this rank in history? It's up there with the only thing that I can close. There was that week when the baseball team made the NCAAs and something else good happened that week. I forget what it was. There's two. It was that's 2021, right? 2021 in Clearwater when we made it to the super regional, and something else really had happened that week. I forget what it was. Stadium plans. I don't know, something. And then 2007, beat Auburn, beat West Virginia. That's about what I got. There have been great moments since then. 2012 basketball team. Jose, has had multiple fantastic weeks. But this one's up there. I think this is up there with getting to the Big East 2003 or 4. We did. I forget if we got in 3 or 4. I remember that I was told to cheer. I was on staff at that point, and we did an event over at Sessoms. And I was just told, hey, you're the loud one. Just cheer really loudly when we bring the Big East flag out. And I was like, okay, that was my job. But since joining the Big East, that pop for football in 2007, I can't see much that compares this. This is really good. What are your predictions for men's basketball? Okay, so men's basketball. I got a full disclosure. I do my deep dives for basketball like early November generally. You guys might know that I'm a wagering enthusiast, and I definitely make more in college basketball than I do in college football, just because there's so much more opportunity. But I talked to a lot of people in college basketball around college basketball. I've got just friends in that area. Everyone that I know that's smart about college basketball, that's smarter than me about college basketball, says this team is effing loaded. Loaded. Like win the conference, win like 30 games, kind of loaded against a monster schedule. We'll see what happens. I haven't met Brian Hodgson yet. I don't know anything about any of his players, quite frankly. But smart, like two separate smart basketball people told me they are loaded, like really, really good. And the kids that he brought with him are really good. And then the holes that they filled are with kids that are really good. And they've spent money. The investment level in that program is definitely over peer schools. So I think that is a really exciting thing. So we shall see. Third thinks there's a reason I pay for the Patreon. I appreciate you guys your coverage, honest coverage, not sugar over. Yeah, look, we are what we are, and we'll cheerlead when it needs to be cheerlead. And today is a day where we're cheerleading. I got some pom poms over there. If you need me to grab them, this is a cheerlead day, and I am excited for today. But then there are days that we screw things up, or we don't invest, or we don't do what's necessary, and we don't take the long-term vision. That's not today. And that's why we need everybody to cover and be a part of this. Higgins is the guy to get Sleeping Giant on it. You know what? We banned Sleeping Giant. I think actually if you go on our Discord channel, if you are a member, if you say Sleeping Giant, I think it's like a 3-day auto ban. Not sleeping. Hadn't been sleeping in a while. I saw some of the cover. I think I watched the PFF wrap up of the game at Gainesville, and I think they used the term Sleeping Giant. My first Sleeping Giant reference, I believe, was Seth Greenberg's opening presser. So that's like, 1996, 1997, somewhere in there, I think he called it Sleeping Giant. My favorite non-use of Sleeping Giant was Robert McCullum going pregnant with possibilities. That was a beauty. Like, I think somebody said to him, you can't say Sleeping Giant about USF. And so he went pregnant with possibilities. Love that for him. Robert McCullum, great guy. Didn't work out as basketball coach. Didn't have the success he wanted, but wonderful human being. It's not Sleeping Giant anymore. It's time. It's past time. It needs to be. And I think Rob's the guy to get us there. And I think the administration that will be supporting him and giving him a budget, the board of trustees is there too. Will this affect a new contract extension for Golish? Absolutely. I mean, Golish is going to want to know who his boss is. And I guess, technically how they're going to do the reporting tree, I don't really know right now, but shows it affected. Sure. Here's the thing with the Golish. Like, if you just look at college football holistically, not a lot of P or group of 5 teams, rather, if the P4 comes knocking, are able to hold them off. Doesn't happen very often. If anybody's got a shot to do it, it's a program that's going to invest the amount of dollars that USF is doing right now. And it's possible. But if Bama comes open, Arkansas comes open, other schools with $90 million media budgets, $100 million media budgets come open, we're going to lose them. That's okay. Like, we can all be super excited about the season and then just hope for the best at the end. And I think that's just kind of what USF fans have to do, and then it's going to be on the administration to make the decisions, which are, all right, look, we need a full payroll for players, which is $20.5 million for rev share. And that's going to go up every year based on, size of budgets and things like that. And you're going to want that full so you can pay all your best players, because you'd rather pay players than a coach because you'll win more. And then you also got to pay for a brand new stadium that's going to run you between $300 and $400 million, depending on the day of the week that you do the math. And can you pay $20 million a year for players, $8 million a year, $5 to $8 million a year for a coach, and pay for a new stadium? I don't know. Let's find out together. But I think you can do two things at once, which is be extraordinarily happy for this football team, realize that we are in a better position than we ever have been, whether Golish stays or goes, and hope that that they're able to find a way to get it done and keep him around, because I think he is a special coach. He's that I only talked to him with any significance twice. You guys heard one of them. We did a 45-minute interview up in Charlotte at the media day. Just a very bright guy, super, super bright. And clearly his players have bought in, and he's special. This is a really good league for coaches, by the way. It's not just him. John Summerall, abnormally impressive. Casey Keeler is going to get things turned around at Temple. And if Temple's got like a really good football coach, I think that shows you the level of coaching talent in this league. It's really elite, and they've got some great ones. But keeping Golish around would be great. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to let that distract me from the fact that USF is fixing its problems, coach or not. It's early, but is Rob's number one priority? As is it possible? I already answered that. Okay. But thank you, T-Rev, Brad. Appreciate all the work you and the rest of the been doing. Let's keep it rolling. USF Bulls are way. Same, dude. Same. It's, what a time to be alive, guys. USF's getting it fixed after all these years. Here we go. Let's do this. All right. I'm going to keep it open for like 60 more seconds, and then I'm going to go answer emails. I'll be on Fox 13 tonight talking about all this stuff. That's why I wear the hat, because, branding. And I'm sure somebody else will call me, and I'll be on like podcasts and stuff like that this week, because when USF does this kind of stuff, people tend to call me, even though I haven't directly covered USF in a long time. I am, for better or worse, affiliated with this university and all of its good and bad for the last 20 plus years. And so that's the thing that tends to happen. The torchbearer, how's it been putting the old newsman fedora back on? Weird. And also I think because of what I've been covering the last 5+ years now, in terms of sports betting, I talked to somebody, at another school, friend of mine, and he's like, hey, you got signal? I'm like, yeah, I got signal. He's like, all right, I love you, he says. He's like, but maybe because my phone calls are searchable, I shouldn't be taking them from gambling reporters. And I was like, okay, that's fair. We'll talk on signal, that's fine. So I think the sports betting side of things, and I want to win games. Sure. Do I want to know who's injured? Of course. And I tell everyone that I consider a source, just don't tell me. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about wives and kids, jobs, and the industry as a whole, and all the other stuff. But I don't want to know about injuries and stuff like that from you. That's what we call a federal crime, and I tend to avoid federal crimes. So, but because of that tinge with sports betting, even my friends are sometimes a little more reticent to talk to me about that stuff, and I completely understand it, and I'm not mad at them at all for it. So keep that in mind. But yeah, it's been weird. This one got a little personal too, in a good way. So we'll see. Richie P, we all know what this guy's capable of. He has the insights and abilities that could take us to the next level. Things we not even be aware of. Yeah, I agree. I haven't talked to Rob about this. I haven't talked to Rob in a while. But I'll promise you this. He's got a plan. What that plan is, I don't know. But he's got a plan. He's not taking this job unless he's got a plan. He's the most prepared person I've ever been around. He's got a contingency for the contingency for the contingency. And I bet he shared that plan with the people who hired him. And I think he's going to share it with all of us soon. So we shall see. What else we got? Okay, that's a lot. I am on Ozempic though, because I am trying to get more beautiful. Those shots, let me tell you, you get that shot, you go from like the 25 milligrams, you go up to the 50. So I started the 50 last week. Good God. I don't eat. I mean, you can't. How do you physically put food in your stomach when you're on 50 milligrams of that stuff? And you're like, shoot it in your arm and you're like, oh my God, never going to eat again. So the pounds are peeling off. I will be sexy by the Final Four this year. What else we got? Could be. AAU member now, certainly on the table, but I do think that ACC and Big 12 probably makes a little more sense, but we shall see. All right. Yeah, we're good here. I'm done. Thanks y'all for hanging out. If you got any questions, shoot me an email, text me, DM me, whatever. I turned Twitter back on. This was a big enough story where I have to unfortunately deal with Elon. You can follow me on Blue Sky too if you'd like. Threads. I'm on Threads too. Try to use that a little bit more as well. So yeah, if you want to just reach out, ask questions, please do so. For our paid members, anything you want to say in Discord, just shoot me, public, private. I'll answer it as best as I possibly can. But yeah, get excited, Bulls. This is a great day. This was weird. Did I just like totally coward this for the last 35 minutes? Like, how does Colin Coward do this every day for 4 hours? 4 hours, just him talking to a microphone. It's weird. All right, I'm done. Go Bulls.